Okay, so hi everyone, welcome to this session. And before we start the session, there is a special giveaway announcement. We'll be having a giveaway, and the amazing prizes include t-shirts and some best-selling paperbacks generously being sponsored by Fueler and Rosenfield Media. So stay tuned till the end of the session and fill out the feedback form to enter the giveaway. I'll be sharing the feedback form link in the chat. Okay, so welcome to the session on how to create a search application using Amazon Opensearch service, Lambda, and API Gateway by Mr. Avinash Koshal. Mr. Avinash is a cloud support associate at Amazon Web Services. He has also been an organizer, a judge, and a mentor at various hackathons. Well, we can begin with the session now. And if anyone has any doubts for the speaker or any questions, please drop them in the chat box and we will take them up at the end of the session. The stage is all yours, Avinash.
Hi, thank you, Nikita. So, hi everyone. As Nikita mentioned, I am Avinash Koshal. I'm currently working as a cloud support associate at Amazon Web Services. Apart from this, I am lead organizer at Hack the Mountains and co-founder at Southern Technocrat Foundation. So, today in this session, we'll be learning about important three AWS services, which are Lambda function. Then we'll learn about API Gateway and Amazon Opensearch service. So without any further ado, let's start with the session. So I'm sharing my screen. I hope my screen is visible. Can you guys see it? Nikita, can you confirm, please? Okay, it's not visible, you are saying. Let me share it again. I hope now it's visible. Can you confirm? Can someone please confirm whether my screen is visible or not? Okay, fine. Thank you for the confirmation. So let's start with the AWS Lambda. So we'll be learning what is Lambda. It's a serverless world. So you might be wondering what is serverless. So first, let's learn about the Lambda. Lambda is an event-driven serverless computing platform which is provided by Amazon Web Services. It's a computing service that runs code in response to events. So you might be heard about Lambda or EC2 instance. So these are virtual servers in the cloud. In case of EC2, you have to provision the capacity. Like when you go to the market to buy a laptop, you tell them like I need 6 GB of RAM, then 1 TB of SSD. So these are the virtual machines or laptops EC2 that we have. But if we talk about Lambda, it's serverless. Why it's serverless? We have no need to provision the capacity. Like we have no need to decide how much RAM we need. We just have our code, we'll run it without provisioning. So the main important aspects of Lambda are we can run code without provisioning or managing infrastructure. We simply upload our code, or put our code and dependencies in a zip file, and then run it. Lambda automatically respond to the code execution. So there's a event, you might have heard about the event or step function. Whenever there is some event, that event will invoke the Lambda function, and then your code will run. We'll test this through hands-on. So if you are not getting things, these will get clear, don't worry. So important aspect of Lambda is in case of EC2 or other virtual machines, you have to provision the capacity, and the time when you are not running that server, you are still paying for that. But in case of Lambda, it's event driven. So you will be paying only for the time when it's running, and you can optimize your code for performance and other factors, etc. So this is the difference between Lambda and EC2. I hope you know what is EC2. EC2 is a virtual server in the cloud, which is limited by RAM and CPU. So whenever you are launching a EC2 machine, you will first tell that how much gigs of RAM or how much storage or how many CPU cores you need. And this EC2 machine is continuously running. Even if you are not performing any operation on this, it will still be running. And when you have to scale EC2, you have to add more servers, or when you scale down, you need to remove the server. So it's a hectic work. Then comes the Lambda, which is a virtual server. Like we don't have to provision RAM or CPU. We just focus on our code. So it's kind of a developer friendly. You don't have to manage the infrastructure. You just know your code. You will be running that code in the server, and it will be working as expected. So it is limited by short execution. You can run Lambda up to 15 minutes, and it is on demand. So whenever we need, we just run it. So these are some of the benefits that like we pay per request and compute time, and we have free tiers. So you might be aware that Amazon offers free tiers that you don't have to pay anything until you cross or breach that limit. So we have these many requests and this much compute time available in case of Lambda. So if we talk about the support, then Lambda support Node.js, Python, Java, C hash, Golang, Ruby, and any language. Even if some language is not supported, then even you can, by using containers or ECS Fargate, or you can run that language. So this is a simple example of Lambda. Here what is happening, we have this Lambda function in between, and we have our S3, which is a simple storage service in Amazon. So whenever any object is stored in S3, a trigger will be generated, and that trigger will invoke a Lambda function. And on the basis of that invoke, we have our code which will perform a different function. So say we have written code that will first create the thumbnail of this image, and then push that thumbnail into some other bucket, and then it's metadata in DynamoDB. So the meaning of this complete slide is Lambda is event driven. We uploaded our file in bucket that created one event, and that event launched the Lambda function. And whatever function we call to perform it, whenever that function finishes, the Lambda function will stop running. So it's pay per use. So now let's go to the hands-on, and let's see few things. So this is a AWS console. You can sign into AWS by using from here. I have already signed in, so I won't be showing that. Then from here we can search for different services. So we'll be running Lambda. So this is Lambda console. I have already many functions written. So I will just go to begin to show you the page that you will land. So this is a simple code. Like if I go in Python, we have defined one Python function which just print one event, and event is hello from Lambda. If I run it, it says hello from Lambda. So this is how Lambda works. So this is one graphical, or say pictorial representation of Lambda. So this is our Lambda function. This is mobile device, IoT backend, and different services. So whenever like these are cogwheel, you see currently it's only one because less data is coming to Lambda. But if I click on multiple icons, then multiple data will be generated and it will go to the Lambda function. And as per the data increases, we have no need to scale anything. Lambda will automatically scale itself. It will add more function, and as soon as the load decrease, it will again go back to normal. So now let's create our function. So creating a Lambda function is very easy. So we have like there are different blueprints available, but for this time we'll be starting from scratch. Let's name it as test. Language, I will be using Python 3.8. It's taking a bit time. And this is just the demo function, which will do nothing, is just a hello world function. So our function is created. If we take a look at the code, first it's importing JSON, then we have a function named Lambda handler. It usually takes event and context as to input. Then it will return status code 200. And if I test this function, so you see it returned for event name test, response code is 200 and hello from Lambda. So this is simple Lambda function. This is the simplest Lambda function that I have created, but as per your need, you can create complex Lambda function to perform complex tasks like image processing, video processing, or sending data from your own local computer to some virtual machine. So you can perform n number of tasks using this Lambda function. You might have heard about the cron job, so that can also be performed. So this is all about Lambda function. Now we'll learn about the API gateway. So you must be aware about API. API usually stands for Application Programming Interface. So API gateway allows provide us a front end to communicate with various services. So if I talk about this Lambda function, right now I'm using console and it's kind of risky. Everyone can see the code, what code is doing. So if some person comes and edit the code, then things might break. So we don't want that thing to happen. So we'll be using API gateway, and with the help of API gateway, we will just providing one endpoint to the user. Using that endpoint, user can assess the functionality of Lambda function, and access to the code won't be provided. So this is the simplest thing that we will be creating in next couple of minutes. We'll be having our client. From the client, we'll send a request to API gateway. Then API gateway will send that request to Lambda, and then Lambda will return the result. So this is API gateway, is a fully managed service that make it easy for developers to create, publish, maintain, monitor, and secure APIs at any scale. It acts as a front door for assessing data, business logical, or different backend services. So using API gateway, we can create RESTful API, we can create WebSocket, HTTP, and different kind of APIs. So API gateway integration, like with which services we can integrate API gateway. First, as I mentioned, Lambda function. With the help of API gateway, we'll be invoking our Lambda function, and then it will return or perform the specified function. Then we have a HTTP endpoint. So API gateway can be exposed to HTTP endpoint like your own local application. And apart from this, API gateway can be integrated with a lot of services. Now endpoints, there are three type of endpoints. First is edge optimized, regional, and private. When we talk about edge optimized, it's global. Like your application will be deployed in 16 AWS regions and so many availability zones. If we talk about region, then it will be in only one region. So AWS have multiple regions. By regions, we mean AP Southeast one, which is Singapore, I assume, then Mumbai. So in all the regions, your API will be deployed. In case of private, it will be only limited within the VPC. So now let's create API gateway. We'll again go back to our console and we'll search for API. So this is API gateway console. I have already created one API. So let me start from the scratch. We can create HTTP API that support our Lambda function and HTTP backend. We can create WebSocket that support HTTP, Lambda, HTTP, and other AWS services. We can create REST API, and again, this is the REST API, but it's private. It means network connection between and data transfer will be inside AWS network. It won't go to the public internet. So we'll be creating REST API. Let's click on build. Okay, we will be creating from the scratch. So new API, let's name it as test 002. Description not required. Endpoint type, we can go regional. As I mentioned, it will be only in US East one, which is North Virginia region. If I go to edge optimized, then it will be in 16 AWS regions. If I go to private, then like I have to give VPC endpoint. Let's not go there. We'll be choosing regional. So our API is created. Now, in order to run API, we have different methods. You might be aware about methods like we have delete, get, so CRUD operations kind of thing. So we'll be using get method, and then integrations that we discussed this part. So in this case, we'll be using Lambda function, and my Lambda function name was, I forgot the name. It's test, I assume, but okay, it's test 001. So our API is created. Now let's customize method. It's not required. So now we have our API created. So this API will send request to Lambda function. So this is our Lambda function in the backend, and Lambda function will return the response back to the client. So let's test this service. So you see, we return the response back which says hello from Lambda. It means the communication between API gateway and Lambda function is working fine as expected. So we have to deploy our API so that we can get endpoint that can be shared with end users. So we'll be deploying. We need deploying stage name. Let's call it test. So you might have noticed that in case of Lambda, when I linked it to this API gateway, the trigger got automatically created. So Lambda has two things. One is trigger and the other thing is destination. So trigger will invoke the Lambda function. Lambda function will perform its task, and then it will have a destination where it will store the result or send result or further processing will be there. So as of now, one trigger is automatically created, which is our API gateway test 002. This is the endpoint of API gateway. So whenever I click on this endpoint, this Lambda function will be invoked. So if I refresh it multiple times, so multiple times this Lambda function will be invoked, and it will perform the this whatever is mentioned in this code. So as of now, we have created one Lambda function. We just print hello world. We have also created one API gateway, which is linked to our Lambda function. And by using this API gateway, we can invoke our Lambda function. So let me pause here a bit. So you might have some questions you can ask, because we are completely moving to the new topic now. So I want to take a pause to just clear doubts if you have any. So if anyone has doubt, please post in the comment section, and otherwise we can move forward. Okay, I think you don't have any doubts, so let's move forward. I hope my screen is visible. Can you confirm? Nikita, is it visible? Okay, fine. The next part is Amazon OpenSearch service. OpenSearch service is used to deploy, operate, and scale OpenSearch clusters in the cloud. So it's an interesting topic. So Amazon OpenSearch service is a fully managed services which is used to deploy OpenSearch clusters, and OpenSearch is used to analyze logs, to store log records. So it's a analytic service that is used to fetch in meaningful information from the data. So we can use it for log analytics, real-time application monitoring, and clickstream. So you say you have your website and you want to analyze the click stream, how many users clicked on your website, what kind of things they are liking. You want to generate these results from your click stream, so you can use Amazon OpenSearch services for that. So it's a bit lengthy, and if I have to create the service, then it will be long. So I have created already, but let me show you. So I have already services running. So let me create from the start. So this OpenSearch is successor to Elasticsearch service, which is the same thing. So we have to, whenever we have to create OpenSearch domain, it's not serverless. So we have to provision the capacity prior to launching it. So you will now understand what I was saying about the infrastructure, CPU, RAM, etc. Let's provide the domain name. Development type will be development. I'm going to use a 7.10 version. Then you see data nodes. So now we are provisioning the instances, like the resources, compute and RAM, that will be requiring for this cluster. So I will go with the lowest because I don't want to pay. So T3.medium, and then we have storage. So when you go to the market to buy computer, how you measure its performance? You have CPU, number of cores, then you have RAM in term of gigs, and then you have the storage like your SSD or hard disk. So in the similar manner, if we choose T3.medium, I assume it has two vCPUs, 4 GB of RAM, and then the storage is EBS, and we are choosing 10 GB. Further, like I am opening it to public, and whenever your OpenSearch cluster is open to the public, you need some sort of security. You don't want it to be accessible to the whole world. So I'm setting fine-grained access control, which is security here. I will be using username and password. Okay, it says one capital letter. Right. Check. Sorry guys, I messed up the password. Okay, it's fine now. So we have SS policy after that. So you might have heard about the firewall. Whenever requests come to the computer, it is first received by firewall. Then firewall has some certain rules which checks whether this type of request is allowed to enter your computer or not. In the similar way, we have SS policy, which will determine the incoming request and decide whether this request is allowed to enter into the cluster or not. So we are using fine-grained access control. So our access policy will be open. Oh shit. Okay, and then we can create our cluster. So if I click on create, it will take around 10 minutes to create. So I don't want that much time to waste here. So I have already created one cluster. So this is my cluster. Like you can see, I have a data node, which is my instance, like the infrastructure, and then it is secure. So we have Kibana, which is front end to open source services, and using that Kibana, we can analyze our log, we can see the data. So I hope I'm not boring you, or the things are going above your head. I hope we are still on the same page. So I will just show you some demo. Like this is my cluster, and I can assess it using curl. Like I told you, we can send data to Elasticsearch, then we can analyze data, we can make graphs and different things out of it. So I have already some data here, but you can definitely enter your data. So this is some kind of data, like it's movie database that I have. So if I search for, like it's a free text based search. You might have known about SQL databases where you have your tables, and you can only search on the basis of primary key. Like let's start from something where something is equal to something. But in case of OpenSearch, this is not the case. You can search on anything. So here you see we have different fields, like we have director, gender, year, actor, title, ID, doc, index. So if I want, I can search on the basis of anything. So say if I want to search on the basis of actor, which is wood here, I will just perform a search, and it will display me the results like 2 hits. So it's a free text search engine, which is not limited by your tables like primary keys, secondary keys. You can search on the basis of anything. You can perform search anywhere. So that's the main advantage. And IMDb uses this kind of database. So that's why if you go to IMDb and you search for any movie, any name, it will list you everything. It's not limited by anything. And even Amazon itself uses this search as its backend. So if you search for any item on the Amazon, it doesn't matter if you search on the basis of dimension, on the basis of name, or like resolution in terms of computer, it will give you the result, because they are not using SQL as their database. They are using free text search database. So this is one of the major use case of OpenSearch. So entering data into OpenSearch and then fetching result is pretty easy. We can use curl command. I hope you are aware about the curl. So I will be like, I have this data. So I have this data right now. We are not able to, like it's raw text. We are not able to make any information about of this. So what I will be doing, I will be indexing this whole data to my OpenSearch cluster. Then we'll analyze this data. So this data, I assume it contains 50,000 movie records. So we'll be building our own database. I will be using curl to send the request because it's easy. So let me check the command because I don't remember commands usually. Okay, I haven't written the command here, so I have to copy the command from the documentation. So this is the command that I will be using, curl -x post, because we are posting data, like it's a put call. So that's why we have to use post, not get. Then I set up authentication. So I have to provide username and password. I'll delete this cluster after this tutorial, so you can't copy my passwords. Then we need domain endpoint. So whenever you want to connect to any services, you need the endpoint, like to where the request needs to be redirected. So in my case, the domain endpoint is, you can easily find the domain endpoint from the console. This is the domain endpoint. Then I have this bulk data. So I am making bulk call, and content type is application/JSON, because if you see, this data is in JSON format. And the name is sample-movie.bulk. So this is the command that we'll be using to send data. What it says, could not read from the file sample. This makes an empty warning. You request what is required. Oh, it returned me an error. Why? I didn't expect that to happen. I think the command is wrong. So we can perform the even the troubleshooting here. Okay, so this is the same command that I used, but it says request body is required, type pass exception is required. Oh, I think I know the error. Let's try again. But still, sample-movie.bulk. Is the name wrong or what? Sample-movies. Oh, it's not movie, it's movies. That's why it returned the error. Silly mistake. Now let's wait. So I hope you are aware about the curl. Curl is just client URL, which provide us with a command line tooling to assess our virtual servers, like to send data transfer, to perform get, post, put, delete operations on our virtual server. So curl is just like command line functionality. It's taking bit time. It means it's currently indexing data. We have 50,000 rows, so it will typically take some time. And earlier, if we go here, you see we have only how much? Like 3 hits, which means only 3 data points were available. But after this finishes, we'll be seeing approximately 50,000 records here. And then we can perform search on any of the record. And you can create your own front end and then use this Opensearch services as a backend to your front end application. You can perform searches like, okay, output is result returned. So this much data is currently indexed. Now, if I again refresh this page, I hope it start populating the data. Still 3 hits. So we can also perform, like I use curl command to send request. This Opensearch has its own dev tools from where we can perform command. So I'm just searching the amount of data. Okay, so something went wrong, I assume, because data is not indexed yet. We have only 3 records. So there's something wrong with this data. But I think you got the concept about the data, like how we can send data and search data in Opensearch. So okay, apart from this, I told you like you can use Opensearch to perform multiple things. So this was one of the things, like you can perform search, and then we also have visualization here. I have multiple data points available, like you can create your own dashboards and then you can perform different things. Like I have this shit, just give me a minute. So this is a dashboard that I created some time back using I think my search is deleted. Okay, let me use the different cluster here. So this is different cluster. As of now, I don't have any data in this cluster, but I can like index data into this. So if I show you in the Discover tab, RN, I don't have any data. And I can also like use the dummy data to display some things. So right now, let's use the sample flight data to display some result to you. It will take a little bit of time to index all the data back into cluster. So from your own data, you can create these level of dashboard that can be used to fetch metrics and analyze the results. So like this is a air control flight data, like how many flights are cancelled. Like you can create different type of graphs using Opensearch and then retrieve results from here itself. So I hope you liked it. Now, if you want, I can give you small task. Uh, so the task is you have to create this thing. You have to create movie search application. Like it will be application where you will search for different movies. Like here in this example, the person searched for Thor, and it will display all the movies related to Thor. And creating this application is absolutely easy. This documentation provides step-to-step guide. Like first you have to index the data. Like prior to that, you have to create one cluster. So I showed you how you can create your own Opensearch cluster. Then you can index data using this command. Then you have to create your API gateway. Like I created API gateway using API console. Then you have to create Lambda function. So the one Lambda function that I created, it only displays hello world. But this Lambda function with complete code, it will be used as a backend that will forward your request to the front end. So this is the Lambda function. So code is already provided. Like you only thing that you need to change here is this region. So it looks at different reasons. Right now I'm in US East 1. You have to change this thing. Then host. So host is the endpoint. Like in my case, this is my host domain endpoint. After this code, you have to modify the handler. Like I told you, Lambda has two things: trigger and destination. So you will be modifying the handler, means you will be adding a trigger to get the data from API gateway. And after that, you have to test your application. Even the application HTML, CSS is also provided. Just download this. It will be having one file named search.js. In the search.js, you have to provide the API gateway endpoint, uh, this endpoint. And this application is very simple. It has just this one input form, and whenever you write anything in this form, it will be passed on to your API gateway. The API gateway will take that and give to this Lambda function. So here it will be passed in this queue, and on the basis of this queue, Lambda will perform get call. Like Lambda will search data in Opensearch. Opensearch will give result back to Lambda, and then Lambda will give result back to your API gateway, and then API gateway will display the result back on your website. So if you want, you can create this simple search application. It can be your homework. So that's all I have. I hope you like the session. If you have any doubts, you can ask.
Okay, that was a very interesting session. I'm sure people will enjoy working on the movie search application. Thank you. So,
I hope some persons have
yeah, we'll take up the doubts
questions.
now.
Yeah, we can take that down.
There's a doubt in the chat. I think it's about the open search. So
Mhm.
she's asking that is it like a search engine, open search?
Yeah, it can act as a search engine. So, like, we can't call it as a search engine. It's a free text-based search engine. We can say that, but it's used for multiple purposes, not just limited to search engine. It's
Okay.
a like more precisely, we can call it as a free text engine, a database, not search engine. It can be used to perform multiple tasks, but search engine is one of it.
Okay, so the next question is Manika is asking, like you mentioned, open source is different from MySQL. So, do we have the primary key type of features which are at times useful in SQL?
No, no, no. We don't have any features like primary key, secondary key. There is one thing which is called ID. That ID is used to index the data. Like whenever we are sending the data, the ID makes sure that every record is different from one another. So that's it. But if we have to use it for our own work, then we have nothing. We don't have any primary key or secondary key that we can use. So it's
Okay.
free text.
Okay. And are Azure and GCP, do they also have Lambda type of functions?
My scope is only limited to AWS, so I'm not. I haven't learned about Azure and GCP, but I think they might have something like this.
Okay, so you talked about open search like using open search for visualization. So are there any
Yeah,
real life examples, any applications that are using it?
yeah. There are multiple like real life examples that we can use. So one of the example that I can give you is, so suppose you are having your website. Uh, which contains different things, and you allowed that website only to certain users. So you can perform like okay, let me think again, like revise the example in simplest form. So you might be aware about status code, http status code 300, 200, 500. 300 mean I don't know, 200 mean okay, 400 mean client side error, 500 mean application side error. So whenever, suppose you have your website and you want what type of request or response code is returned from your website. So whenever a person makes a call to your website, and say if that person is unauthorized, then status code 403 will be returned. So if you want to visualize that traffic, like how many authenticated users made request to my website, how many unauthenticated users, or someone tried to perform a phishing attack on my website. So you can collect that data and you can visualize it. Like it will be easy to sort in the form of a bar graph, or you can create scatter plot, whatever you like, but it will be easy to visualize the threads that users are making to your website. So multiple examples, you can visualize weather data, so multiple things.
Okay, that's great. Another question, how does Lambda handle automatic scaling?
Lambda handled automatic scaling on the basis of input data. So whenever data is coming to Lambda function, it has its own default metrics, which which usually measures the input record, and it then calculates whether the current provisioned capacity is able to handle that load or not. If current provisioned capacity is not, then it will launch one more instance of itself, and it will then handle the incoming load. So it basically performed a real time analytics on the incoming data, and if load increased, then it will auto scale.
Okay.
Like I showed one example in which if I clicked on multiple streams, then multiple data will be generated and more cog fields will be launched. And as soon as data gets decreased, the amount of incoming data, then it will like remove or under provision itself.
Okay. So I hope that was clear. There is another question about Lambda container image. So she's asking where can she learn about Lambda container image as she hasn't worked with Docker previously.
Okay, so Lambda container image is kind of a different topic from the Lambda itself. So Lambda has its own, you can say, extension for container images. When we create Lambda, we don't provision anything. But when we have to go with the container images, then there is a specialized AMI. AMI stands for Amazon Machine Image, which is your operating system. Which is your operating system. Like you have Windows, you have Mac, you have Ubuntu. Then we have this AMI for Lambda function. You just have to use that, and then Lambda will launch your code in Dockers. So if you want to learn about it, then as per me, like you have in this time, the resources is not a difficult. You can learn from YouTube, you can learn from Google, but the one thing I like most about AWS is its documentation. You can learn everything from the documentation. So I'm sure AWS has documentation about the Lambda function. So that you can just go to docs.amazon.com and then Lambda function. It will show you step by step way how you can learn, how you can launch container images in Lambda function.
Okay, so I have a question. If a beginner wants to get into AWS, like learn about Amazon web
Yeah.
searches and all of that, so how can they begin?
So, there are multiple resources available to learn about AWS. One of the main resources provided by AWS itself. We have a huge number of AWS articles, then videos on the YouTube that you can use to learn.
Okay. Uh, there is another one. Sir, I'm really curious about the Alexa skill kit. It sounds very interesting. So, can you shed some light on it and how we can create projects with it?
Actually, I'm not that much good with Alexa. It's not like my part. So even I am curious to learn about Alexa. I recently like found a way that we can even create like we can invoke Alexa using Lambda function. So I'm still in the testing phase. I hope in the next session I can teach about Alexa, but not right now.
Yeah, we'll be looking forward to that, learning about
Yeah.
Alexa. Okay,
So
so
right now, I have Alexa, so I'm using it to create my own some different skills. So I hope next time we'll surely have something new in terms of Alexa.
so how has your experience been at AWS? Like also at AWS and to like being a cloud support associate.
If I talk about my experience, so then like every day I came to learn about new things. So in certain companies or somewhere it happens after a few months, after a few years, you hit saturation point. But this is not the case with AWS because AWS every 3 month or every 6 month, AWS will launch new service or it will launch new extension to the existing services and like you every day you get something, you face new challenge where you don't know what to do, then you have to replicate things, then you have to learn things. So this constant learning is very important and I believe it's what it keeps me ignited throughout the day. So like opportunities, it never ends at AWS. So you will never say like, oh, I know this service, I know it fully, now like I have nothing to learn. So this is not the case with AWS. Even if you have mastered something, then you can even create your own things. Like if you know one thing very well, you can create extension. If you say about Lambda, you liked something, you created something for your own, then you can give that feedback to the developers and even you indulge with the developer to create that thing. So it's endless possibilities at AWS.
That sounds wonderful. Like it's great if you are learning continuously while working.
Yeah.
So I think we can wrap up the session since there are no doubts.
Yeah, sure. We can wrap the session.
Okay, thank you everyone for attending the session. Please fill out the feedback form to be eligible for the giveaways, which is in the chat. I've just posted it. So all the winners for the giveaway will be announced tomorrow on our Instagram page. So do follow GDSCIGTW on Instagram. Thank you everyone, and I hope you enjoyed the session. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.